Howdy. Since we're building a web server, we need to have public IP addresses for the outside world to access it. So Azure has a service for IP addresses. So let's look into that now. Search for public IP addresses. We've got it there. So let's create one. So basically, think of your domain. If you have foobar.com, there's an IP address behind that. So right now we're just going to create a public IP address that we can assign to our virtual machine in a later video. And let's do this now. You can actually create the public IP address when you're creating a virtual machine. But I want to walk through using the actual service because you don't know. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you need to, maybe you're setting up a server for somebody and they need to know the IP address right now, and you're not ready to create the virtual machine yet. You just need to know the public IP. Like maybe they need to, whoever you're creating it for needs to whitelist that IP for some reason, so you can just have a batch of IPs. So we're just doing the service for now. So let's create the IP. All right, so we're going to use IPv4. So there's a basic and a standard SKU. We're going to stay with standard. Standard will give us a static IP. So for the most part, you're going to want a static IP. You can have a dynamic, but for what we're doing, we don't want to have our IP address changing. So we want to make sure it's static. So we're going to stay with standard. I would just always go with standard. So let's give ourselves a name. Let's just give it web server IP. All right, and you see how it's since we chose standard, it defaulted static already. If we did basic, we have a choice of dynamic or static, but we want to make sure it's static. Let's go with, so we're going to stay with standard. And standard is secure by default. It closes inbound traffic by default. We don't need to worry about any of this right now. And again, our subscription, Azure course, and our resource group. We're going to use our course resource group. And our location, we want to keep it at East US. And our availability zone, we can choose zone redundant or 1, 2, or 3. So zone redundant basically means that it won't fail on just one zone. So it'll allow, if one zone fails, it'll fall back to the other zone. All right, so let's see. So let's create it. All right, so that will take a couple of minutes to create. So let's go back to our resource group. And let's see. It's not created yet. It should be created very shortly. All right, so our IP is created now. So now we have a virtual network, we have a security group, and we have an IP. All right, in the next video, we're going to actually create a virtual machine. So we're going to use some of this stuff that we finally have created. So make sure you click the subscribe button below so you don't miss out on how we're going to create the virtual machines and everything like that. So stay tuned.